You open this door with the key of imagination and step into a world where the only limitation is what you believe as we sit around the fire.
It's been said the whole world is a stage and everybody plays a part. But the question remains, who's writing the script? Welcome to Around the Fire. Have you ever read the story Robinson Crusoe or seen the movie The Castaway? Or ever heard stories about people who have spent time on an isolated island where survival depended upon adaptability, resourcefulness, and courage? Well, today my guest is a very extraordinary young man who has had such an experience on an island off the coast of Brazil. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Milo Pierwola. Welcome to Around the Fire, Milo.
Thank you very much.
Yes, and before we get started, I would like you to view a clip from his island adventure.
I cannot count the number of times that I said to myself how dangerous it is what I am doing right now, and that I can die right here. These times are matched only by the breathtaking moments that remind me of how far I have come. At one point in my life, I thought that my job was my obligation, that it was mandatory. Vacations were rationed and negotiated with sick days, and holidays bottlenecked me with everyone else into an exhausting traffic jam of stress. I came to believe that the person I wanted to become was for those chosen by fate, lucky individuals who had the resources and were in the right place. Yet here I was, heading to a deserted island off the coast of Brazil for 3 days, alone. I decided to defy fate. I decided to become my hero. The fact is that there are never enough resources. For our dreams, we have our whole lives, so we must learn to use what we have to grow ever closer in reaching them. This was my first time completely isolated from civilization. There was no trail home and no call for help. I was truly alone. It is a combination of such little things that adds up in the end. Even your life's biggest battles are ultimately buried beneath the ever-accumulating dust of daily struggles. I found an abandoned campground under a large nut tree and set up my tent. However, I would soon discover that location was overgrown and plagued by insects. I had to move. It quickly became evident that the inside of the island was impenetrable. It was covered by thick, thorny, aloe-type plants that locked together underfoot, and the only places free of these were on the rocky cliffs. And it was on my way there that I experienced one of those moments where I couldn't help but smile. They were really loud before, and I was digging around for them. Couldn't find them, but they just kept talking, so... I don't know what they are, but it sounds pretty cool. Kind of like little fairies inside the grass. What you discover when you decide to pursue a non-traditional path to success is that distances are neither quantifiable nor predictable. But what is beautiful about it is that they are limited only by our own fears and perceptions. You learn not to depend on the tangential tools that erode until they fail you, but on yourself And if you don't give up, you are rewarded with incredible resources along the way. The campground provided one such treasure. Hidden behind a tree, I found a primitive axe. This half-moon-shaped weapon would prove so effective at cutting through the thickets of thorny bush that it opened up the whole other side of the island to me, including a campsite right near the peak where I was rewarded with a complete 360-degree view. As a result of a smashed banana, I was down at the water washing off its sweet nectar from the fruits and vegetables I had brought with me. Passing fishermen saw me at the water, and to my great surprise, gave me a gift of 3 still living fish. And here I was, admittingly butchering the meat with my dull knife, but I was cutting myself fresh sashimi, one of my bucket list items, and making my first ever ceviche with onion and freshly squeezed lime juice. Well, a little spring shower came through, and I'm gonna try and not be frustrated because I'm just about to get out of here, but everything is completely soaked. You can't plan for these things. Like, I don't even know where that came from. I don't know if there's more coming. But I'm soaked, so completely, like, I can't even put stuff in my pockets at this point because I'm just, and it's too cold to evaporate. Just gonna try and have some coffee and some food, and then pack my stuff into my bag. Damn it. Often when you journey alone, it is easy to become overwhelmed with pessimism. That is why you must celebrate every victory, no matter how big or small. Top of the island! The difference between those who achieve their goals and those who do not is dedication. It is unrelenting pursuit in the face of failure. You become successful not as a victim of chance, but by overcoming the much greater probability that you won't. And you must trust yourself to adapt. To achieve our dreams, we must conquer ourselves. It is predictable when we become sad or angry, but it is productive for our goals when we train ourselves to remain focused through whatever awaits us in our journeys.
Wow. That's all I can say. You definitely are authoring your own script, my friend.
Thank you.
My goodness. I mean, it's just like you've said, I see the Matrix, and I am not really feeling it as a part of who I am. I'm going to strike out and do me. That's what I get. And I see that adventure you had was a step on the path of you doing Milo, not doing, like you said you were in a situation where you were in a job that everything was just, too mechanized. You had sick days that were delegated and vacation days and all that stuff, and it left you feeling like, well, where the key is in my bag, and it doesn't fit. And I definitely understand that. So Milo, what inspired you? I understand what motivated the movement, but to take that island adventure, what was your inspiration?
With the island adventure was actually as just one of the steps to where I am today.
Mm-hmm.
It originated from me finishing school and having a hard time finding a job. And all the jobs that I was looking for, similar to what everybody else is finding right now, are entry-level positions with several years experience, and it just doesn't make any sense. But But what ends up happening is you get kind of boxed in with everybody else into this system that kind of is predictable. And I think that's what, for me, was the kind of eye-opening moment where I saw, I knew what was going to be happening. 3 years down the line, I'm expecting this much, or this promotion. And 5 or 6 years down the line, I'm expecting to have my loans paid off, and that's when I can start thinking about getting a mortgage on a house. And I think that predictability is where my brain short-circuited. You mentioned the Matrix, and it certainly felt like I was becoming unplugged from some sort of larger system or organism. And the reason for that is because I mentioned it before when we were speaking earlier, but it feels like bumper bowling when you have a predictable path in life, because you are secure on the one hand, and you know that you can't fall off into the rails, but at the same time, that unpredictability isn't there, and you can't necessarily achieve what you're looking for. And what I mean by that is, when you have a regular job, you are essentially walking a path that has been tread so well that you know that you're going to reach your destination, if that's a partner in a law firm, if that's a doctor, if that's anything that you want to do. However, because it's a well-tread path, you're actually standing in line behind every single person that is on that path who is ahead of you. Because this person perhaps is 2 years down the line, this person 1 year, this person 15 years, and you're standing behind them, waiting to take their place as you progress down that path. Whereas what I'm doing is I'm also climbing the stairs or ladder or mountain, or however you want to use the metaphor, but I'm beating my own path through the bush.
Yeah.
And so that becomes a much more insecure, unsecure path, because you may accidentally fall down the proverbial cliff, or you get injured, or some sort of animal encounter gets in your path. But at the same time, I am the only person responsible for how far I get. And if I decide to go to a certain, or in a certain direction towards a certain goal, I always know whether I'm getting closer or further away from it. I sort of set my compass to it. And so I think the inspiration for the island was actually happenstance. I didn't plan on it at all.
Okay.
Even thinking back to it now, it's interesting because I don't often watch the island. So it's interesting to watch it again and listen to my own words about it.
Yeah,
because
very inspiring.
when I was in Brazil, I was visiting Jacqueline Silva. She is a 2-time world champion surfer. She is a friend of mine now. She invited me down for a month to stay with her. And while I was there, we had never spent that much time together, so it was a little bit, I suppose you could say, stress was building up, and I decided I had to figure out some sort of way to get away for a couple days.
Okay.
Whether it was with her family, her friends, or whatever it was, because everybody was friendly to me. And while we were surfing, out into the distance, I saw the island constantly at her favorite surfing beach. It's called Pierwola. And I asked her what's on the island, and she said that there's nothing on the island. And so I said, well, what, is it possible to walk on it? And she said, yeah, you could just get off on it and wander around. And that's when it just hit me, this is the perfect opportunity to go and live this type of experience.
Wow.
I had all the tools, I had my backpack, I knew what to pack. This was after I took a course with Knowles to become a wilderness EMT, so I knew how to take care of medical emergencies. And it was as simple as asking for her brother to take me out to the island and just letting her know, pick me up in a couple days. So it wasn't as well thought out as I had imagined. In fact, the 2 days prior, I could not sleep. And the reason was not because I thought perhaps that I would not be able to use my survival skills well, or that I wasn't able to eat, or some sort of emergency would happen. The actual thing that I was scared of is it was an uninhabited island.
Right.
But who's to say that somebody else wasn't living on that island? And if somebody else is living on that island, I'm sure that they would be unhappy with unannounced visitors
you'd be
coming and
invaded.
staying alone. And that's when I wondered if there was anybody that had decided to stay there, because it was a plentiful island with fishing and all sorts of easy to access food on there.
Oh, okay. So that's
So that was what was on my mind, not the survival part, but the I'm going to be intruding on somebody's lawn part. So.
Oh, wow. Okay, because then that answers the question about preparation, because I wanted to know how you prepared yourself mentally, physically to handle this excursion. And then, okay, my next question is, so what was the experience like to be isolated for 3 days on an island where you didn't have interaction with another human being, or you didn't have access to any of the technology that we're so used to in this society?
It's an interesting question, because that wasn't something I was thinking about at all.
Right.
And it was definitely difficult to not be in touch with anybody. I mean, I could see land, I can see boats going by. I didn't speak Portuguese, which was a big cause of, I suppose you can call it momentary panic. If I needed to have some sort of assistance, I wouldn't be able to communicate.
Right.
So basically be just pointing at the beach and saying, let's go.
Right.
But the isolation was, I think, something that kind of, it was something that prepared me more so. As I said, the island was a step towards the lifestyle that I lead now.
Right.
And the lifestyle that I lead, and I'll talk about my company. So I have a company called EXPAdventures.
Right.
I decided to change career paths. I used to be an attorney, and I quit that job, essentially quit that career, and I started my own company called EXPAdventures. I am now a personal tour guide for customized trips anywhere in the world. I speak several languages, and I have contacts to create the trip of your dreams. And this experience was one that allowed me to understand that the places that I would go to acquire the expertise and experience and wealth of knowledge that I have, I would be doing that alone. I don't always get to take people with me, so most of the time I'm actually traveling on my own. And when I go to these places, you don't meet people, you just kind of travel on your own. And so this isolation was a way for me to kind of become attuned to this lifestyle.
Okay.
And it was pleasant because it was beautiful weather, except for that one part with the rain.
Yeah.
That really threw me off. I was
You could see it in your
I was
expression.
very
Yeah.
frustrated. Actually, that came out of nowhere whatsoever. I was actually just packing my tent up, and it just if you look at the clouds behind me, that's what it looked like when I looked up. And it was like a column of water that was just moving across, and it was just a wall of no rain and absolute getting soaked. So I had probably 30 seconds to wrap my stuff up, and I didn't make it. So everything got soaked.
Okay.
But like I said, so this is a way to kind of understand that when you're traveling in your own direction, you're traveling in your own direction. I believe there's a quote that says if you travel with the herd, you're only going to get as far as the herd.
Yes.
But if you break away from the herd, then you're going to go as far as you are comfortable with.
Yes, and you're also going to be more in touch with who you are instead of imitating what is expected. Like, how it is we're conditioned to take a certain attitude on life and respond in a certain way. But when you actually get in touch with who you are within, on I guess we can soul level it, and you start to really live from that place, then your life becomes a different experience like yours. You open a door to a path which led you to where you are now with EXPAdventures and the things that you're doing. And these things seem to be more in line with who you are as a person. It's not like you're saying, I'm a lawyer, but, I wish I could do something else. No, you're like lit up because you're really in tune with what it is that your life is unfolding as.
Well, it's a lot of work,
but
and I think what you're getting at is you do get to spend a lot of time with yourself, which is what we were just talking about. So you get to understand yourself a lot more, and you hear the wants that you have.
Exactly.
And you don't have anybody else setting up challenges for you at all. In fact, you're the person that's responsible for that. So it takes a lot of discipline.
Centered.
If you're like I said, if you're trying to become or reach a professional goal, then there is plenty of people out there who can be your mentors. They exist in everyday life. There's so many there. I mean, the market is oversaturated with professional degrees right now. Whereas if you're doing something like I am, what I discovered is you can get bits of information from people, but for the most part, the person that designs the program is yourself.
Exactly.
And I think that really reveals to me who I am and what I'm looking for. And that is a very different experience than one that I had in school. And the reason for that is because now I am excited about the things that I'm learning.
Yes.
And the skills that I'm acquiring. I'm learning how to put those in together into this larger structure that I'm creating. And a lot of it doesn't work. So you have to let go and realize that failing is okay.
Yeah.
And I think that there is a very large stigma today that you have to have a product ready for market when it hits the ground. And that's simply not true. Because that may be true in a well-established field if you're starting with a pharmaceutical drug, or if you're putting a new law into effect, it has to interact with all these other things. But if you're creating your own business that, like mine, that's international with a variety of clients in a variety of international environments, you're going to get scraped up and you're going to fall down a lot. So,
but even in that, you're still on your own path.
That's right.
No, you are your own CEO. Let's just put it in that context. And that is part of any life process, that you're going to have those experiences where you do fail, but they're learning opportunities. I think everything has significance.
That's true.
So it's not really a failure, it's a chance to learn something. It may not happen as you designed it or expected, but in that is something that will help you in the next step.
That's correct.
So that's how I live it. I'm not looking at it as a failure, but okay, what do I need to learn from this so I can go forth? Another thing, I understand that you're working with a project with Mount Everest.
Well, we were speaking before about, or you and I, when we started talking, we were speaking about how the path that I am taking is similar to what people can do with their lives.
Right.
And that what that means is if you listen to somebody else and they set your goal for you, you're only going to go as far as is comfortable for you pursuing that. If you experience severe discomfort or if it's intolerable, you're just not going to go forward with it. You're going to want to have that weekend off so you could go and party with your buddies. That passion isn't present.
Yeah, because you're not yourself. You just said it. You somebody else is defining your path or defining you and how you should proceed.
Exactly. And so that you're not invested in it.
No.
Because it's not what you want to do, it's what you've been told to do.
Yes.
Whereas if you decide to go for exactly what you're looking for, I mean, it takes a while to identify what your passion is, and it takes a lot of failure. I have a cousin and several friends who have had many different career paths that they started, and it's difficult and challenging for family and friends because when they see that person invest themselves and then reel back because they discover it's not what they want to do, to those individuals who are inexperienced with that happening in their lives, they see it as a failure, and they say, "Oh, it's another thing that you got fired up about, and so what's the next crazy idea that you have?" Whereas for me, I understand that those paths that I took were very meaningful because they clearly let me understand when to say no and when I identify things that I don't want to do.
Right.
And we were speaking about the summit of Mount Everest. I mean, it's a mountain that eluded the best climbers in the world for 100 years, from the moment it was discovered until the moment that it got climbed. And when some crazy New Zealander and Nepalese Sherpa finally reached the summit, it was a globally celebrated accomplishment. And today, it's possible for anybody. We've got people who are 83 years old, we've got people who are 13 years old climbing it, and what that means isn't that necessarily that mountain has has become any shorter or any easier, although technology may have improved slightly. What happened is we have demonstrated that if you have a goal and you are passionate about it, you personally won't quit. You won't take, I don't take weekends off right now. In fact, for me, taking time off is meditation for just a couple minutes.
Okay.
Because my dream and my passion is right in front of me. And every inch forward is meaningful.
Yes, yes.
And so Mount Everest is important to me because it represents that challenge. And I discovered recently, well, within the past 2 years, that there's a significant trash problem on top of the mountain. It is a place where you are traveling for 6, 8, sometimes 2 months, 6, 8 weeks, but sometimes 2 months in order to go from base camp to the summit.
Okay.
You're constantly traveling up and down. It is one of the harshest environments on Earth. You do not have enough oxygen. Your body burns calories at a crazy rate.
Right.
You are constantly on the move. You cannot sleep, and your body just doesn't digest food.
All right, so because the environment doesn't really support a normal type of metabolism because of the challenge.
So let me just finish real
Go ahead.
quick. So basically, when you're reaching that summit, every ounce of strength matters. And what ends up happening is people tolerate casting away objects that are of no use, like broken tents, oxygen containers, etc. And that has become a systemic problem on Mount Everest, and now there is a significant trash problem out there.
Okay.
And so I'm basically researching and working to learn more about this entire operation called Saving Mount Everest, and it's available at savingmounteverest.org, and that is the largest and most successful operation to clean up the summit of Mount Everest in history. They brought down 8.1 tons of trash in 2011.
Wow.
And their program that spanned over 4 years was a program that installed a waste management culture into the community and a sustainable waste management infrastructure into the region.
Okay.
And so it's a very meaningful project, and I hope that everybody will take a look because it's something that I'm very interested in getting the word out.
Give them the website again?
It's savingmounteverest.org.
Okay, savingmounteverest.org, people. And again, I'm going to use a metaphor as Mount Everest. You can reach your own Mount Everest in your life when you decide to walk your path and follow your road, as my guest Milo Pierwola has done. And the adventure continues. And thank you for joining us on Around the Fire. Milo, it has been a pleasure. Thank you so much. And until next time, be empowered.